Hi, welcome to the session on the campaign product work. I'm Alex Stinson. I'm a senior program strategist, and I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, my name is Ilana Freed, and I'm the product manager for the campaigns team.
And we're going to give a brief introduction of what we're doing with the product team. Next slide, please. And the introduction is I'm going to talk a little bit of why, and then we are looking at campaign software, and then I will hand it over to Ilana, who will give you a tour of what we've been thinking. We are recording this ahead of the conference, and but we will be attending the session, and will be available for Q&A in the chat and in the sidebar afterwards. Next slide, please. So why do we need software for campaigns? You might be a campaign organizer. You might have seen campaigns in the movement, and you might be assuming like, yeah, we do campaigns pretty good. All we need is central notice and and we can like advertise to anyone and they'll show up. But as we've kind of been doing research, and in my role, I've been asking a lot of organizers like, what's going on? What are you doing? What are the steps? Next slide, please. We've discovered that like the campaign ecosystem in the Wikimedia movement is really complicated. I'm not going to explain exactly how complicated it is because it would be a whole other hour. But we found there's basically 3 different levels of involvement. There's international or like campaign organizers. There's local event organizers who run events like editathons and contests. And then there's participants, and each of them has a very complex, multi-sided experience. And what we found is that only the most experienced organizers in the movement can put together a campaign. And this is really challenging because it requires multiple tools and multiple systems to work together, but it also requires a whole other set of skills, which is like communication, training, writing instructions and content. And these things, when you have to learn the tools, these other parts often are very complicated, or vice versa. If you're really good at the other parts, you may not learn how to do the tools. So we're thinking there's a real opportunity to invest in the technology behind campaigns. Next slide, please. And there's 2 main reasons for this. First, we really want to reduce the learning curve for tools. Right now, connecting multiple tools together and doing it successfully with technology, it's hard. Even some of our most experienced organizers get confused. And also, it makes it really hard for new organizers to be successful in their first event. Whether it's a small editathon or a big international campaign, it's very hard for new organizers to succeed because the different steps in the process are not always working. The second kind of reason why technology, is we're seeing with movement strategy a real demand for more strategic topical activities through the topics for impact recommendation. And we expect this will mean more organizers, more context, more campaigns, more topics. And we can't rely on the organizers who understand the tools and technologies we have now to do that. We need to be ready for more people and doing it in more diverse situations. And so we need to start investing in the technology now. I'm going to hand it over to Ilana to explain exactly how we're thinking about doing that.
So hello, everyone. Again, my name is Ilana, and I'm the product manager for the campaigns team. They'll be working on some of the early tools. So I will now continue on. So who are we? Campaigns is a new team at the Wikimedia Foundation, formed in 2021. We're a software and product development team, and we're focused on building and improving tools for campaign organizers and participants. Our goal is to provide software solutions that empower and support campaign organizers. So for experienced organizers, we want to simplify their workflows and provide more powerful tools. For new organizers, we want to make it easier to become effective long-term organizers. So as a team, we want to be building solutions that are really impactful to organizers. To do this, we decided to first talk directly to organizers. So we set up calls with about 50 campaign organizers. They worked in different campaigns, in different wikis, and in different parts of the world. In our chats, we really wanted to know what was working for them and what wasn't working for them, and what problems they wanted us to solve. From these conversations, we identified 11 key requests or problem areas, which include a central place where organizers can find tools and resources available to them, easy ways to create high-quality, contemporary-looking event pages, better tools to promote campaigns on and off Wiki, easier ways to find events for newcomers, better tools to communicate with participants and other organizers, and better ways to track, analyze, and report impact, and easier ways for participants to receive recognition and find out what to do next, among other requests. So we feel that the best way to address these many problem areas is to treat them as interconnected issues that need to be addressed at a systematic level. So rather than just saying, okay, we're going to fix these top 2 problems, we want to build out a larger platform that can provide support to organizers. We see this as a 2-sided campaign events platform with an organizer side and a participant side. This platform will be modular, meaning features can be separated and recombined, and will be extensible, meaning we'll be working on features for the platform, but other teams or volunteer developers can also build features for it too. The platform will be small at first, and we imagine that it will grow over time. So our first project that we're thinking of for the platform is registration, and this can kind of address or display a little bit of why we're thinking that. So here in this diagram, you see the 11 requests or problem areas that we discussed earlier. Now, one thing you can see in this diagram is that the more arrows something has, the more complexity there is. So that's because there are dependencies, and earlier steps would ideally be taken before we build out that feature. So for example, next steps or the participant center have these sort of building blocks that we want to build out first before we really potentially dive into those spaces. Another thing to bear in mind is that the diagram is also color-coded. Green is what we plan to focus on first. So here we have the organizer center, or an early first version of the organizer center, and the registration system. Purple is what we probably may choose to focus on next, and it's where we predict we'll begin to see impact around organizer empowerment and growth. And finally, blue is the most complex work, and it'll be space that we probably focus on later. This is where we predict to see impact on the number of participants joining campaigns and how successful they are as editors, both during and after campaign events. So now let's talk about the registration project. For this project, our objective is to build an on-wiki registration configuration and management solution. Our goal is that we want to empower organizers by making it easy to see who is coming to campaign events and how to effectively support them. This way, organizers can identify opportunities for growth and re-engagement within their communities and their contexts. So what are the problems with the current registration solutions? Right now, there are a lot of problems, which we'll briefly run through, but generally speaking, the current solutions are time-consuming for organizers, and they're not integrated with tracking tools like the Programs and Events dashboard. As for on-wiki solutions in particular, they tend to look and feel outdated, and they're technically challenging for newcomers. They provide minimal information on participants, and it's difficult for organizers to contact participants. For the off-wiki solutions, they aren't integrated with Wikimedia wikis and workflows. They're difficult for participants to edit. Participants can't see who else joined. And they're not generally supportive of multilingual communities or the values around privacy that are core to the Wikimedia movement. So what's our vision? First, let's talk about the advantages of the on and off wiki solutions. So for on wiki, the registration advantages are they're integrated with Wikimedia workflows and privacy standards, and you can see everyone who registered. For off wiki solutions, organizers can collect rich participant information, and it's easy to see who registered. So our vision is to blend the communalism from on-wiki solutions, in other words, that you can see everyone who's joining the event, with the ease of use from off-wiki solutions. And we have an added bonus. We would like to add integration with tracking tools. So that means that usernames will be automatically pushed to the tracking tool of choice of the organizer, like the Programs and Events dashboard or event metrics. So organizers don't need to manually add the usernames themselves. One thing we want to address is that some people have asked us why we aren't considering using open source solutions that already exist for registration. While nothing is totally off the table yet because we're early stages of the project, generally the way we're thinking is that we want to build something that's actually integrated into Wikimedia workflows and systems so we can build that larger platform than we envision over time. So there may be open source solutions we can use in the backend work for registration, which would be the determination of the engineers in our team. But overall, our main goal is to create integrated organizing space for activity on the wikis rather than keeping it off the wikis. So what benefits does this registration solution provide? Briefly, with a registration solution, organizers can get an easier configuration experience, more information on participants, better support for languages, integration with wikis, and integration with tracking tools. Meanwhile, participants can get an easier event registration experience, an easier account creation experience, a view of other campaign participants, and better onboarding onto wikis. The last thing I'll say before we jump into the wireframes, which we'll do in a minute, is how we're going to really build is important to address. So we want to build this in an agile and iterative way. This means that we'll be building something small at first so we can test it and get early feedback. Then we plan to expand it to have more features and more enhancements over time. So the first version of the registration will probably be pretty slimmed down. But over time, there's some things that we imagine it could provide. Some of these include organizers asking for optional information of participants, like their wiki editing level or their gender. Organizers specifying which information in the registration process is public versus private. Organizers applying search filters on the participant list to send targeted messages based on those filters. Organizers being able to contact participants based on the participant's method of choice. Newcomers being directed to onboarding tools and resources. Organizers having a better, more visually appealing way to develop event pages and more. So those are some of our early ideas, but this is something that we plan to develop over time with everyone. So of course, things may change and evolve. Now, we're going to talk about some of the designs that we have so far. Something to bear in mind is that these are wireframes. So that means the early ideas for how the new registration system and experience may look, but they're just ideas at this point. Nothing's been built. We really want to hear your feedback. Okay, so first, we talked a little bit earlier about the concept of an organizer center that's part of a campaigns platform. So here we see that we want to create a space where organizers can find all the tools that we develop for them, which we're calling the organizer center, but this name may change. So we're thinking that people can maybe access this center via a top link, similar to where the contributions are. And here it'll link to the campaign event space. And that's where you can get that two-sided platform for the organizer side and the participant side. We're going to be focusing on building the organizer side first, but that's where we imagine both of those spaces could eventually potentially live. So once someone clicks on campaign events, then they can be brought over to the space to organize campaigns. Here, there'll be the first tool that we built feature to create registration for your campaign events. So the user will click Create Registration for your campaign events. And here we have the form where they can sort of configure that registration experience. They can enter the event page URL, event name, date and time of the event, whether it's virtual or in person, the location of the event, the tracking instance of the event, the usernames of other organizers, if there are any, and a link to a chat group associated with the event, if there is one. So note that this means that the event page and the event tracking instance, so that would be something like the event on the Programs and Events dashboard, and the chat system will need to be set up in advance before this registration part is worked out by the organizer. For this first project here, we really are just building an event registration system, but later on, when we work on other tools and other features, we imagine that it can plug into this registration system as well. So overall, once the organizer has added in all the information, they'll click Create Registration. Now, once they do create the registration form, what will automatically appear on the event page that they specified via the event page URL is this bottom sheet that you have right here. This bottom sheet will allow people to easily register for the event under their username. And we picked this bottom sheet style so it could really work for many different types of event pages. So now if I'm a user, I can click register as username. Now, let's say my username is Johnny. It will say register as Johnny. So I can click register as Johnny, or I can click more details. Now, if I click more details, it brings me to this side panel right here where you can see more information provided, such as the names of the organizers and the participants. And I can also choose to register from this view as well. Now, in order for me to register for the event, I will need to have a username and I'll need to be logged in. So if I click to register and I am not logged in, this pop-up will appear that will allow me to log in or sign up. Now, this is the experience and look that someone will have after they've signed up. So this bottom sheet will now say you are attending, and it'll say edit registration. Now, for the first run of the registration system, it's very basic. We're just allowing people to register via username. We're not going to ask them a lot of questions about themselves. So if I click UR or edit registration now, which I can also do via the side panel, it will just ask, do you want to leave this campaign? But later on, when we have more features and more things that we can ask the participants, then they can actually edit that information from the form. Another thing that participants will see after they register is they'll see this success message at the top that lets them know that they successfully registered for the campaign event. Now, from the organizer side, after they have created a registration form, on top of having the registration experience automatically added to the event page, they'll also be able to see the list of all these sort of registration lists that they've created. So here, for example, Wikimedia CE Spring 2021, the organizer can go to this particular list and they can see who has joined the event so far. So there's the usernames, there's the date and time of when they've joined. And also there's the ability to select some or all of the participants to remove them from the list or message them. So we have here the ability to message via user page or user talk page or email. Now, there's a lot here in this page that we will need to see as we really dig into the work, how we do in an iterative way, how we build a trimmed down version. But this is the general idea of what we have of what it may look like from the organizer side. And that's it for us. So now the last note that I'll share is we would love for you to be involved in the project and to share with us what you think, any feedback you may have. So some of the things that are going on right now is we are posting the next status update in the project that shares wireframes. We would love if you shared your feedback on Meta. You can also just visit our project page in general to learn about what we're working on and our vision. We have a mass message newsletter. We encourage you to subscribe to it. And in general, you can share any feedback you have with us either on our project talk page or on our team talk page. And so now we'll open it up to questions. So thank you very much for your time.